Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the RevelX webinar studio. Let's do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear us well? Just use the chat, please, if you want. Eric, good morning, Eric. Martijn, Hermanus, good morning. Good stuff. All is okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Good to hear. So good to see that you guys already found the chat box or the chat bar to leave your messages with us. Okay, let's start with this webinar on AI. Just to remind you that we're running these webinars every once in a while, every other month or so. Should you want to rewatch some of our webinars, we've done 3 already on the topic of AI. You can log onto our website. If you go into revelx.co/warehouse. You will be able to find our other webinars, and we also have a few podcasts on Spotify. So if you want to reach out to us there and download that stuff, that's you're more than welcome to. Okay, let's go. So today we're going to talk about AI, and the title says AI wildfire, or at least AI without chaos. And specifically talking about AI, it's been around for a while already. It's no longer a futuristic concept. It's a business imperative. A lot of our clients are talking about AI, and rightfully so. And we see companies trying to solve problems which were previously impossible with the use of AI, creating new value through innovation and through enhancing and optimizing existing processes. So it's everywhere, and it's touching everybody's lives. And well, I think for us personally as well, I think that the speed at which AI is spread throughout the world has been astounding, and it's really become something that we really have to look into. As it's touching everybody's lives and everybody's business or aspects of businesses, many organizations experience AI or an AI wildfire, if you will. So it's sort of a fast spreading, overwhelming force that lacks structure and focus. And we'll talk about that in this webinar as well. We see that a lot of business leaders either are facing a fear of missing out, like a FOMO on transformative opportunities, versus more or less a fear of stepping in. So how do you start with AI, and how do you start with actually experimenting, and this is sort of a tension in the business that sort of demands from both a bold vision as well as strategic caution. So the question obviously is how do you take control? How do you harness the power of AI? For people who've been visiting or participating in our webinars more frequently, usually there's somebody else next to me. It's usually my colleague Mark, but today I have Leo Simons. We'll introduce Leo in a little bit. I am Matthijs Hosman. I'm a partner at RevelX, where you focus on growth through innovation, and obviously, AI has become a major part of that in recent years. I am not a techie, so very happy to have Leo here this morning. But ever since ChatGPT was introduced to the public, I think about 2022, but is it 2022? I think, yeah. I really understood that I had to school myself very quickly because this was obviously something that was going to take hold very quickly. And I decided back then that I should at least spend 1 hour per day, reading about, learning about AI stuff, either a podcast or an article, or trying out some new stuff. And obviously, for people who know me well, I have a hobby in Italian wine. I'm a sort of part-time Italian wine importer, so everything that has to do on the crossroads of wine and AI is my interest. But as I said, I'm joined by Leo Simons, he's CTO at Schuberg Philis. He's Schuberg Philis, our partner in secure and responsible AI adoption. And let's turn it to you.
Yeah, but it's so great to be here. Yeah. I'm Leo Simons, CTO at Schuberg Philis. We're an outsourcing company, so we do mission-critical IT only. That involves lots of different things, and of course, for the last couple of years, that's also involved a ton of AI, and I lead our strategic AI initiative. It's really the newest addition to our value proposition, and it's been so cool to figure out how do I make AI safe for use in this mission critical context. So unlike you, I'm a total techie. I started writing software, I think when I was 6 years old. I cannot remember not being involved with computers somehow. And all these years later, I still love playing with technology, everything that's new, everything that's different, discovering it. So of course, for the last couple of years, that's also been playing around with AI as a shiny new toy. And then the last, I would say, a year or two, really also figuring out how do we use this at work.
Okay, so I talked about my sort of wine hobby and how I like to use AI for figuring out the best wines, or the wines and meals, how they go together. Do you have anything sort of in your personal life in which you think, oh, this is really where AI has sort of helped me to propel my hobbies or get better at something?
It's absolutely everywhere, right? So I like to do fitness tracking. So my fitness tracking has AI in it now.
Sure.
This weekend, I was trying to figure out what happens if we cannot use Microsoft Office anymore or SharePoint anymore.
Okay.
Is there any technology alternative? So I was looking at this piece of software called OnlyOffice. And then I thought, well, if I have OnlyOffice, can I still have a co-pilot that helps me write my letters? Okay. And then it's let me dig into how can I make use of these new AI plugins, have it running locally on my laptop? And my Sunday was just gone.
So disruptive in multiple ways, right?
Absolutely.
So it's getting rid of Microsoft and getting rid of your Sunday. So, but no, thanks again, Leo. Thanks for being here, and happy to have you. Before we dive into the content, let's take a moment to introduce our companies in a bit more context. Obviously, RevelX, many people know. Obviously, once you're subscribed to this channel, you know that we specialize in business growth through innovation strategy. And we help organizations not just experiment with growth strategies, but also implement them in a structured way. We work with many organizations on sustainable growth. And as I said before, AI is becoming more and more a part of those strategies, as well as an integral part of driving growth. Maybe for the people who don't know Schuberg Philis, Leo, maybe you can talk a little bit about what Schuberg Philis is about and what you guys do,
sure.
what your footprint is.
So we're really mission critical IT specialists. So what we're always focused on is understanding the vital business processes in, let's say, major industries, and then figure out how to engineer just the right solution in that context. So many people don't know the name Schuberg Philis, but most people recognize many of our customers because they're the big enterprises in the Netherlands. And for them, we have dedicated teams that really focus on their most critical processes and supporting them IT-wise. We're based in Amsterdam and in Rotterdam, growing steadily every year since we started back in 2000. And there, a lot of my focus is for these mission critical domains and for these big enterprises, how do we make innovation safe to use? So I'm part of a team called Lab 271, and we have many initiatives there. And the big one is, of course, AI.
Yeah. And I've had the privilege of visiting the lab, and I think it's really interesting to see. So one of the key features, which I thought was really interesting, is that you have this sort of wall of all of these electronic products, like ranging from very old Atari computers up to quantum. I think you already have some quantum computing stuff in there as well.
That's next, folks. That's the next revolution.
That's the next one. But it's really cool if you just walk past that wall and see where you are in terms of, okay, so I can remember that, and so again, thanks for having us, and congratulations on your partnering with Bridgepoint as of recently. So if we just move into today's agenda, or it's going to be a 5-part webinar today. First of all, we'll talk about the AI wildfire, as I introduced it. So what are some of the common challenges and pitfalls that organizations face when trying to or starting to work with AI? Then we'll dive into a topic which is a structured approach to AI adoption. Thirdly, we'll talk about governance, so staying in control, right? How do you keep check on things? And then thank you for bringing a case into this webinar. So we'll look at AI in action, which will be a case study from Lab 271, as Leo just introduced it. And then we'll end with practical adoption tips. And if you have any questions, please use the chat. I know you've been able to find it already. You cannot see that, but we have a large screen in front of us, and we can see everything that's going on. Any question you have will be displayed in front of us. So we'll very regularly check back into the chat and see if there are any questions that we can answer. As we're trying to keep these webinars very interactive, we also have a couple of polls, and we just like to get the conversation started. We have a first one, and my colleague Rob will now launch it for you. And just for us to understand where you guys are in terms of your AI adoption, please take part in this poll where we have basically 4 answers. So where is your organization in AI adoption? First of all, no AI use. The second option is we're experimenting with AI. The third option is we're scaling up AI projects, and the fourth one is AI is fully embedded in a process. Let's see where you guys are. I think
that's already so interesting. We were talking before. Yeah. Is anybody already at the stage that AI is fully embedded in our processes? I hope someone clicks yes, because then I want to hear that story.
Yeah.
This looks very recognizable, right? So a lot of our customers are busy experimenting. Some of them are already scaling up, and I think it's very rare for companies to already be, AI natives or something
fully
like
embedded.
Yeah.
There will probably only be some of the startups that are now actually starting to show themselves in this realm. But
sure.
Yeah, I think for us it's also very from where we come from, it's very recognizable. Many organizations starting to experiment with AI, and if you're already scaling up AI projects, as 5 people in this audience have indicated, be really interested for us to learn, and maybe you can, if you can, put something in the chat just to learn what kind of AI applications you're scaling up, such that maybe we can reference them during the webinar as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's turn to that discussion about the AI wildfire. So some of the common pitfalls and challenges, and maybe Leo, maybe you can talk a little bit about what your experiences are with your organization starting to work with AI, and what do you see happening in general?
So I think with a new technology that is so hyped like AI has been, and that is so readily accessible to anybody with a web browser, it is very normal that all the employees in any given business start experimenting, and they end up looking at these tools. You mentioned ChatGPT, that happened in 2022. A little bit before, in the engineering domain, we had the GitHub Copilot in 2021. And you just see rapid adoption as people try these things out, swipe their credit cards. And then, of course, as organizations, we know, we somehow need to keep up, right? So there's this promise of major productivity increase, this promise of new innovation, and then how do you manage this? How do you keep it under control? A lot of these tools are not mature in the beginning. They might all be US based. It's very difficult for example, CIO or a security officer to allow their organization to really reap the benefit of those innovations in a way that is controlled and compliant.
Yeah.
And then when many organizations start, the experiments are all over the place, and the initiative can get a little bit fragmented.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you see this as well, but these experiments then can die off if they don't have enough sort of executive support or enough backing. Then it seems like a really good idea, but the actual business process doesn't change.
Yeah, I agree, and that's we see the same thing. There tends to be a lot of frustration in that area as well, where obviously where you talked about the benefits of becoming more efficient, becoming more faster to market, being more innovative. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, especially when there's no support in the organization as well. One of the things I talked about in the introduction as well is something that we see in organizations is basically a sort of a 2-part demographic, where some of the organizations suffer from the fear of missing out, right? So they try to sort of get on the bandwagon as quickly as possible, in not to miss out on the latest trends in AI. Whereas on the other side, we have the companies that are suffering from what we call the fear of stepping in. Mm-hmm. So really afraid of, okay, so what does this mean for my organization? What happens when I open this sort of a box of Pandora of AI tools? So we basically see those two camps, and if we dive into that a little bit more and break it down further, what we see when companies sort of facing this fear of missing out is that, like you're describing, competitors are adopting AI, and then there's a pressure to keep up, but also the efficiency gains that are sort of promised in the new business models that now appear to be possible because of AI, they tend to show themselves, and we see that business leaders just don't want to be left behind.
You want to be the disruptor, not the disrupted.
Exactly, right? Exactly. You want to be the big fish, and and another thing, which and again, while we are sort of in our pre-discussion of this session, is that employees are pushing for AI tools. And the interesting thing is, when we go back many years with the start of social media, for example, I was responsible for consumer marketing in a telco. And what we saw with the rise of social media, as we saw all of these customers, they talked about our brand and about our services, but because of, let's say, corporate limitations, we couldn't talk back to them because we weren't allowed to use those social media tools. There were no guardrails there, and I see the same with AI. People are using AI just like you talked about your fitness tracker, but also once you drive to a client or the office and use Waze, obviously there's AI is everywhere, so we're basically used to using it, and we just cannot use it in a corporate environment. So that's a push from employees, and obviously then also investors and stakeholders expect AI-driven growth and transformation, specifically when it holds such a big promise in it. So that's part of.
That's the one side.
That's the one side. The companies that are the fear of missing out, and then there's the other sort of demographic of people say they have the fear of stepping in, right? And it's really a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's no AI expertise in the organization, right? So the organizations feel that we don't have the people to really drive this AI wagon and making this decision making difficult. But obviously, and you also alluded to some extent, concerns about data privacy, about compliance, about potential legal risks. So what are we getting into when we're starting to work with all these AI tools from companies that we don't know in many cases, or we don't have any insight into their legacy or how they use their data. And then also, I think there's also this idea that AI implementation requires a significant investment in cultural change, and how do you deal with that? And specifically, well, there are so many other issues on the table to
is this really important right now?
Is this the thing to be concerned with at this point in time? Yeah. And not to forget that we're just coming out of this period of where everybody's into this move towards digital transformation, right? So all of the businesses that are the clients that we work with, if you look at their strategic agendas, digital transformation or becoming a digital company is becoming more and more of a topic, but at the same time also failing at that. So they also see that it's so difficult. It's easy to say that we want to become a digital company and we want to embark on this digital transformation, but at the same time, seeing sort of tangible benefits out of that is also something that organizations.
And these transformations are on top of each other, one after the other, right? So it's like cloud transformation, and then it's digital transformation, and then it's AI transformation. And so, well, what if my digital transformation didn't go very well?
Yeah.
Am I ready to do an AI transformation? Maybe I should hold off.
Exactly. Yeah. Can we leapfrog one over the other, whereas we don't have that confidence yet? So let's and we have another poll for you guys just to see where you guys are. If you look at your organization, do you feel that your organization is in camp fear of missing out. So does your organization suffer from that, or are you on the other side of the spectrum where there's a fear of stepping in, and you're sort of afraid of start making the first move and being it's interesting. So we're looking at the results coming in. It's the FOMO effect in this group is quite prevalent as we see it here.
But so it's interesting. You can only pick one, right?
Yeah, you can only pick one.
So if I'm a very fearful person and I have a little bit of both, then I have to pick one of these, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But obviously, then we also have our chat option. So if neither of these answer options would suit you, then maybe you can put your answer in. So if you look at those results, so let's say about 60% of you answered we're in the fear of missing out phase, another 40% fear of stepping in. I think that sort of resembles at least what I see. How do you read these results?
Yeah, it reads familiar to me, and also it feels familiar to me. So I am usually more afraid of missing the boat or not going fast enough, or missing out on this stuff. So we do all this stuff about security and safety and control, and then I worry, am I focused too much on the control? Should I let go a little bit more? So I am more, even though it's a big part of my job every day, I still experience this FOMO. It makes sense to me that even though we see people already experimenting with AI, still worried that we might be missing out.
Yeah, and for me, I think for me it's the same. I would put myself in the FOMO group as well. And as I explained, dedicating a significant amount of time each day to learn about AI, and I still feel that with the speed the things are developing, I still feel that 1 hour a day is not enough. We're getting all these fire. There's a great.
There's AI.
There's AI at play. So thank you for Rob for putting those things in. So about, let's say 40-60. I think there's a question here from Ayandam. Could there also be an element of just a lack of understanding of what AI really is that results in these FOMOs and FOSIs?
I think that's true, and it's very interesting that. And I think you did a webinar before explaining sort of all the new generative AI technology. And in my experience, you don't need to understand a lot of the detail in order to reap the benefit and get started with it. So I think that fear exists, and I think it's very easy to take that away. If you think about driving a car, like most of us drive cars, right? And we know how. And I was in traffic on the way here. Everybody is very relaxed in their car, but we have no idea how the engine that's inside there works, right? Like most of these modern cars have like 7 computers in them. We have no idea what all those computers do. We're just driving. And I think a lot of the generative AI hype is also leading to this, I must understand this stuff. And you don't have to understand the technology to get the value out of it.
Yeah, that's I agree. On the other hand, I think it is important that we work on AI literacy, and that people understand, what AI actually means, and also from a leadership perspective. And again, this goes maybe it's my personal frustrations, but I see all of these developments, be it either going online, using social media as customer touch points. Adopting e-commerce as part of a sales channel. What we see happening a lot of in organizations, that these sort of domains are handed down to people or younger people in the organization. You figure it out, and let's see what comes out of it, without putting too much dedication to it. So I think, and thank you for that question. I think it's very important that people at least school themselves on what AI means, what the benefits and the downsides can be, and then obviously use take people like yourselves to really drill down when you get to a part which is really important for your business. Okay,
Thanks for your question again. I'm really interesting.
Yeah. And I see Arjan chiming in as well. I think that decision makers believe that AI is just a toolbox and not part of the strategic focus. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think we should move beyond that sort of feeling that it's just an app or just an application. So yeah, totally agree. So let's move in. Thank you guys for sharing that. Let's move to that structured approach to AI adoption. And Leo, how do you see organizations adopt AI in general? How does that work?
Yeah,
and how does that work in your practice?
So before we get into too much of a framework, let's talk about a couple principles. I have three ideas for you, three principles. The first one, with this new technology, it's really important to learn quite fast where and how AI can be the most useful. And because it's so new and disruptive technology, it's a better idea to not design too much up front, but to take a couple of really quick shots and see what you hit, see what value you can get out. So in a week or just a couple of weeks of experimentation, you can learn so much that you can avoid deploying like a big AI system where the technology isn't a great fit yet. So we talk about, instead of ready, aim, fire, we say, fire first, and then you're ready, and then aim.
Okay, so that's a bit of a different mantra as many organizations.
It's very, very new way of working. But when you dare to do this, it really you get important results.
But before you move on, so how do you manage this? How do you manage this transition within an organization, which is many organizations obviously are focused on making plans first, then thinking about stuff very elaborately, and then starting to take action. And now you're advocating that you should probably take action first and then see what the results.
So it's something that we really, really love doing at Lab 271. So we have like a maker space and a workshop environment. So we take people from our customers out of their usual work environment and bring them into an innovative space. And they bring their problems and they bring their ideas. And then we have an approach to innovating with them and trying things out. And very often, when a business person starts to sit down with an AI engineer and they see what is possible, this also helps to overcome some of the FOMO, right?
Okay.
Like, oh, this is how I make that happen.
Okay, thank you. I love the the effects. Thank you.
Yeah. So second one, I think it's really important to adopt AI in phases. So rather than aim right from the beginning of completely transforming your business processes, the approach should be start smaller. And so something that is easy to do, relatively easy to do, is to deploy an isolated AI application, like an on-premise version of ChatGPT, for example. And then once that's deployed and once you start gaining experience, you can start integrating that solution with some other technology and some other applications that people are already using. And the lessons that you learn along the way help you figure out how to do the more advanced stuff. So it's start small, but start and capture the lessons.
And I know you guys are obviously specialists in this field. So when you say start building your own GPT, I think for many that already sounds like, geez, that's a major effort, right? I know you talked about how you guys built your own Schuberg Philis GPT to experiment with AI application. So what does it entail? Is this something that a typical SME can do as well, or is it just privy to the tech companies or the bigger corporations?
That's an interesting question. So I think in our domain of mission critical deployments, it is not so easy. So you need a team of a couple of people that really know what they're doing. We do this for some of our customers. Also, some of our customers have done this themselves, and they put in place a small team that deploys some technology on like their existing cloud platform or something like that. For environments that are a little bit less regulated, it is actually pretty easy to start.
Okay.
So, for example, Microsoft has a public cloud offering called Azure, and part of Azure is something called an AI Studio. And this is actually tooling that if you can figure out how to make use of Microsoft SharePoint or Exchange or Outlook, you can actually figure out how to make use of this AI Studio, and you can start experimenting and building something yourself.
Okay,
so it's easier than you imagine.
Okay, so as I think most of the world is on Microsoft products, or at least I think the majority of the world is on Microsoft products, then getting onto Azure and using the Azure AI Studio would be a good start to start building your own GPTs.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks. Before we move on to so Lisa saying the possibilities of AI are endless. That makes it hard to choose and fire immediately. How do you decide? Maybe we leave that question when we talk about that in our
something with use cases.
Something with use cases. Yes. So let's take
we'll get back to
question.
that one. Yes. The third one is so this AI move seems very big and disruptive, and you think everything must be different, but that's actually not the case. All our organizations are already used to adopting new technology. And when you start adopting AI, you have to remember how to do this. So in this example, some principles at Schuberg Philis are we're focused on mission critical, and then we have dedicated customer teams. So how are we going to do AI? Well, let's focus on mission critical and do it within dedicated customer teams. So in our own deployments of AI, we say we're going to remember our core principles and take those along, and that also gives us some comfort that not everything is new. It's just new technology or a business process change. And then based on these couple principles, you get your first positive experiences, and once you have your first positive experiences, then you get to this next phase, like, okay, now how do I scale this up, or how do I embed this in an organization?
So it's very much like we think about innovation, that you start experimenting small, start building value and proof, and then you move up to scaling up. Is that sort of how you guys approach it? Yeah. And the way that you approach it, I also like that it also builds confidence. Like you said, you have first experience of success, and then okay, so we see this works, and now we can move on to the next stage. Okay. Great. Again, if there are any questions on this, feel free to put them in the chat. This was one of I really like the Marktoonist cartoons. This one I really liked. So now that we started to adopt AI for things like social media posts and chatbot, what's next? And we see a lot of organizations focus on the low-hanging fruit without having a sort of a really good strategy on, okay, so where do we fire? In your analogy, which way do we fire first? I thought this was at least to me, it was quite recognizable. But thanks to Lisa's question, I think it's also recognizable to some of you. In my discussions with Leo and his team on AI use cases, or where do we employ AI, we very quickly came to the realization that there's no really good structure around. So how do you make a decision around where to focus AI? And to move beyond that sort of chaos and move into our structured implementation, we together developed this quite simple AI use case canvas. It's basically a framework for organizations to assess AI opportunities in a structured way. And hopefully, Lisa, this is also an answer to your question. And if we just go through it, and you can get to download the use case canvas at the end of this webinar as part of our thank you for contributing or attending this webinar. So it's basically built up in 4 elements. First of all, is what we call context and goals. It really defines what kind of business problem do you want to solve. I think, and this also ties into what you talked about, AI being having sort of the shiny object syndrome. So we want to do something with. Oh, so now we have ChatGPT. How do we do something with that? But if you don't attach it to a business problem that needs to be solved, it's just a flurry. It's just something that happens and it'll go away quite quickly. So trying to define, so what is the context of my business and what are the goals that I'm trying to achieve, and maybe also look at it. What are some of the previous attempts that I've made towards solving those problems will help you sort of and define where AI should be fired at first. So what's the context, what are the goals, and what should our AI initiative deliver? The second one obviously is about AI design in terms of, do we actually have the data to come up with a good AI application? So what kind of AI capabilities are required? What data and technical needs do we have? And how do we integrate that into our business? So that's the second part of the canvas. Then the third part is around feasibility and impact, where you look at, okay, so who are my stakeholders? How far along are they on the AI journey? What kind of risks are there, and what kind of perceived risks are there? What kind of value can we bring? And not at least important is, is there any investment need, and is that investment actually available to our organization? And then fourthly is execution and scalability. I'm a firm believer that you should never start a pilot without thinking about scalability, at the forefront. Because if you find something that's successful and there's no way to scale it, then obviously the experiment is futile. So look at some of the success metrics and the long-term scalability potential of an AI experiment at the beginning is actually crucial. So these are just four steps and elements, and if you go through them, it'll help you create sort of a full picture of how valuable is it, and what are the chances that we can actually pull it off. And if you get that full picture and you look at all of your AI initiatives in that similar way, you at least can make an informed decision on where to move.
And what I love about this, Matthijs, is you introduce yourself as not a techie. I'm a total techie, and still I'm always saying, let's start with the business problem.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're not helping someone with this, then why are we doing it?
Yeah.
And so that's that first trigger. Yeah. And then when we get into AI capabilities, when you say, oh, actually, in order to make use of AI here, we need all this data. We don't have this data. Yeah. Can we get this data? No, we cannot get this data. Yeah. Or maybe focus on a different business problem. Yeah. So working through this together in dialogue within your organization or with partners really, really helps to focus the mind.
Yeah, and I think you also touch upon an important element, is that I think it's our obligation also as business people to be engaged in AI from that perspective as well. And so either we step into the techie camp a bit more, and the techies step a bit more in the business camp. I think that's a good development because that creates mutual understanding and improves the likelihood that all of these experiments actually work. Just some tips on how to complete the canvas, and Leo, the first one you already mentioned, start with the business problem. So look at like anything new, anything in innovation. Look at the problem that's worth solving, right? If we're focusing on the domains that has very little business value, then the naysayers or the skeptics will always win. The second one you also talked about, so be clear in data availability, right? So if you don't have the data, then the output of an AI initiative is going to be very limited. Identifying key stakeholders early, obviously, who needs to be involved in order to build credibility, to build, the chance of success, or at least raise the chance of success is key. Also be clear about risks up front. I don't think it has any use to say, well, there are no risks or limited. There are always risks, but you have to address those potential challenges before deployment at least. And then, as I said, plan for scalability as the last part, I think is quite important. So please download the canvas, use it. If you've, as we're developing all of these tools, if you've found a way to improve the canvas, let us know. If you've used the canvas to build an AI initiative that has been successful for your business, let us know. We're always, obviously, we're here to share knowledge, but also very interested in learning how you guys deal with these things. Okay, we just lost. Thank you for saving me. So let's move on to staying in control. So we talked about AI adoption. We talked about how to do that. We talked about common pitfalls. So Leo, how do organizations stay in control?
Exactly. So we planned for scalability.
Yeah.
Now we're scaling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the way that we look at this is, and what I put on the screen is our internal Schuberg Philis AI manifesto, where we said, here are some of these principles that we give to our employees for thinking about this. You already mentioned AI literacy. Everybody that is using these AI systems need to understand what they're getting into, how it works. Very important phrase is AI can make mistakes. So what do I do when the AI makes a mistake? How do I deal with that? I need to know what tools are available and what can they be used for and how they should be avoided. Favorite example of mine is, imagine that you have a big ChatGPT subscription for your whole organization. Probably it's not okay to upload sensitive personal data to ChatGPT if you are in the EU. That's an easy one. But what is acceptable use? And what are the limits to that? Who makes those decisions and how do they make those decisions? And for that kind of governance, it's important that we are clear not just on what cannot be done, but also what can be done. So we mentioned this fear of stepping in. And one of the ways that you can resolve the fear of stepping in is saying, this usage is okay. This way we make progress. And so risk management is sometimes also about, I'm going to accept this risk and this is okay to do. And like in our case, because we deal so much with mission critical systems, a lot of the data is super sensitive. We have banned the use of ChatGPT. And I'm not saying people should do that, but that's pretty common in heavily regulated environment.
Sure.
But I want to have a tool like this because it's really productive. So then we say, okay, let's deploy our own version internally where we are more in control. So we know exactly where we're going in terms of data sharing, and we know what the limits there are. And then the next step is encouraging all colleagues use that system. So do not be afraid of using AI chat tools, but use this one.
So
because then it's safety.
Providing them an alternative to use, and whilst reaping the benefits of productivity, enhanced creativity.
Exactly.
And so I like this manifesto, but this is your manifesto, right? The Schuberg Philis manifesto. Do you also help your clients in building their own manifesto within their organization on how to use?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think where we are at with most of our customers is we're part of the conversation. And what you see is what we do in that conversation is we say, this is strategically important. And then the executive decision makers get involved. So you get AI literacy at an executive level. And then we act more as advisors than that we provide these frameworks. Right? So Schuberg is more of an IT partner or an IT business partner than that we are technology strategists.
Sure.
So I think there maybe if I get that question, I would call you.
Okay, that's you have my number. So and who should be, if we were going into an organization, who should be sort of the driver of such a manifesto? Is that an IT department? Is that a legal department? Is there a joint responsibility?
I think it has to come all the way from the top. So that can be the CEO, that can be the managing director. In some organizations, it might be the CIO, whether that's the information officer or the innovation officer, but really from the top and also from the business side.
Okay. I'd be interested to learn also from the people in the audience whether there in your organizations like a similar manifesto exists, or at least some type of a governance document. So if you do have something like that, give us just a couple of sentences on how you deal with AI governance within your organization, and also if you have no governance, that would be interesting. To learn as well.
Maybe we can do something with numbers where we say, put a 1 in the chat if you have no AI governance at all. It's a complete free for all. and put 5 if you have fully structured oversight at every level in the organization, and then 2, 3, 4 somewhere in the middle. 1, no governmance, 5, full oversight.
Yeah, and we don't like 3s, right? So 3s is basically I don't know. Okay, just okay. So let's see where that leads us. Okay, thank you. So let's look at the case study that you brought. So we talked about this. Obviously, a lot of the cases that you work on mission critical AI or mission critical IT is not something that you can talk about very widely and very openly. But maybe so we found a case that you can talk about, although somewhat covert. But maybe you can take us through a typical case study that you guys work on in Lab 271.
Sure. Hopefully also like a practical example helps to make real, like how do you actually do this, or what does it look like? So the case I picked is one of a content management assistant. So this is for one of our banking customers, big organization. They have a lot of full-time content managers. And what we decided to do was work with them to create several different tools to try to help these content managers become more efficient. So while we start up the video, maybe I can talk through what's happening there. As a content manager in one of these organizations, there's never enough time to do all the tasks that need to be done. For example, content classification or adding the right kind of metadata information. And we figured this is actually something where an AI system can really help. And we did a couple different experiments together with their content managers. And we built a tool that can suggest new tags to catalog images, or that can improve text descriptions that already exist for a certain content. Because AI is really good at generating or improving text. So we figured, let's see if we can integrate that. And then because they're international business, they need to have all this content translated in many different languages. And we helped with that kind of localization. And then finally, one of the things that we found is for a lot of their existing content, the information needed to be a little bit better. So in the video, you see 2 different cows. You have a Brazilian cow and a Dutch cow. And they actually need to be tagged and labeled a little bit differently. So that they are useful for the production of the website, and the Brazilian audience gets a Brazilian cow when you add a cow to a story.
Okay, and just to get on to Lisa's question about the possibilities, so how to make that choice. Why in this in the context of this bank or banking association did you pick content management over maybe all of the other possibilities of using AI?
This seemed like an easy place to start. And the relevant technical teams had some capacity to help. A lot of the content was already there in digital, a relatively modern content management system, so easy to connect to. So it was a simpler place to start. We actually ended up working on a whole bunch of different use cases with them as well that were more advanced once we gained this confidence. But they consider that sort of competitively sensitive information, so I cannot say anything more than that, unfortunately.
Okay.
But it's really to start small and then iterate. And so this organization really built confidence that, oh, we can do this and we get these kinds of systems into production. Let's now, let's say, work on more core business processes.
So it was a deliberate choice to get onto this, to take this as an example and start building confidence around this in the organization as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure if you were aware of, if you have that information at that level, but how did the users of the system basically perceive this new AI system? Did it actually help them,
So I think this is a while ago that we started, and it started with a lot of fear. And this is the AI is going to take our jobs fear.
Okay.
And then actually working together with them and showing, no, we're going to help you improve the data quality. So we're going to help you do your existing job better rather than take it away from you. That really helped. Bringing them along in the process also really helped. So we did all these iterations on these tools to go from just basic localization features to localization features that made sense for the content managers, where the tone of voice guidance that they get from up high was actually part of the tooling. And we would have never come up with that, like as a bunch of techies. But working together with them, they figured, oh, this is a really good way to do it. And that then builds the confidence, and that then really helped with the adoption.
Great. Maybe we should look at our question about the governance. And you ask people to put a 1, 2, 3, or 5 in the chat. We see quite a few ones. Leona, Wim, Rennie are 2. Okay, a 5 for Arindam. People started with 2 techies, no AI governance.
So Arindam is at 1, and that makes sense, right? As a startup, don't do governance. Governance is after you hit gold.
Okay. So develop first and then do governance. Okay. So a lot of ones. So we're sort of on the left side of the of the scale here. So I think there's work to be done. Let's put it that way. Then move as we see that people are keen to move on to their next meetings. Let's move on to the practical adoption tips. We already mentioned a few. What I also got from our previous conversations, also see in practice is obviously think big and start small. So but at least start somewhere. And I think that's a good imperative that we get people to start moving on AI. Don't tackle sort of the biggest problem first, but start somewhere where you can actually demonstrate value and build confidence throughout the organization. Also, the other thing I think is engage as many people as possible in the AI discussion. The use cases they tend to come from the business side, right? So they tend to have the problems that you're trying to solve with AI. So if you engage those people in the AI discussion early on, that dialogue can help build momentum. Obviously, educate, get people to really become more literate. I think we had this discussion before, but there's this EU directive that for organizations that do work with AI or want to work with AI have the obligation to train their people on.
That's law now, right?
It's law.
You have to do it.
Yeah, so you have to do it. Not sure how it's going to be enforced, but according to EU law, there is. So you have to educate people on ethical use of AI. Obviously, creating clear governance, but also aligning AI with your business strategy. Make sure that it actually supports the business going forward. And in terms of don'ts, there's only one which I think is very important: is don't let it be an isolated experiment. So don't put that somewhere in a team or in a room with the youngest, most enthusiastic people, and let it die off there. Is there anything I missed from, let's say, more of a practical sense? I think you mentioned a couple of these things already.
So I think the AI use case canvas really helps to avoid isolated experiments, right? Be ready to scale, and it also really helps to have some amount of control. And I think what we could mention is you can fill this out for yourself, right? So you do not need someone that spends an hour a day on AI in your organization to get started. It's very, very, very doable these days, right? Like in 2022, maybe that would have been different. But there's just so much knowledge by now that you can find out. I would say like desk research, fancy name for Googling, for how to get started. Arjan is asking, what is the name of the law? So the law that requires AI literacy.
Yeah, I think it's actually called the AI literacy law. But if you do desk research or Google, then you can find it.
I think it's part of the first version of the European Union AI Act.
Yes.
And so these European laws still need to make it into national laws, but they're enforced already.
Yeah. So please, and if you do find it, then while you're maybe attending this webinar and you're Googling, maybe put the link in the description here. Okay, so we're moving towards the end of our webinar. this is, I always use this "don't become a dodo" reference either in innovation or any sort of new development. I think it's organizations that ignore AI governance, or actually that ignore AI governance risk are becoming irrelevant, right? So because they really have to, you really have to pay attention. You really have to know what you're talking about. You have to embrace AI, but do it in a structured way. And I think, as we talked about, we've gone through waves of sort of organizations had to become customer-centric. Then, everybody had to become a digital company. I think now everybody has to become an AI company. And I think that's just, it's bigger than just, the applications as we just talked about. And actually, thank you, Fabienne. We just get a new comment coming. If you believe that AI is not just new digital capability, you should start with solving a business problem and use the classical digital transformation approach. Or why not build a central hub of literacy tool offering capabilities and guardrails and let it stream into your business that the man will be so learningful. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I would say a lot of what we shared now is a digital transformation approach. I never have seen the word classic and digital transformation together, but I think that's fair. I don't know if you agree with that, Fabienne. If you think maybe we missed something there, I would be curious. And then when it gets to having a central hub, I think that can be a really useful strategy if you have the resources for that. So I think there's a decision before that where you say, this is a strategic initiative and this is how much I want to invest. And once you're there, having a sort of center of excellence or community of practice, that's really a way to do the scaling. And yes, we've seen that work.
And there are a lot of really good platforms out there which can help you build that knowledge and build that if you don't have it within your organization. So that's a good one. Okay, before we log off, we have a bit of a Q&A, which we're obviously already answering some questions. Arjan put another question in the chat. I was also expecting some discussion of risk of lock-in by partnering with AI partners that build their own algorithms on your data. How to avoid this? This sounds like a techie question.
Yeah, lock-in is always scary. And also in the area of AI, what you see is that now this partner is on top, now that partner is on top, now that partner is on top. And when it comes to like which AI models do I use and where do they go and how do I connect those up, there is some of this risk of lock-in. I think the key strategy is you make sure that you're in control of your data and you make sure that you're in control of all the outputs. So if I have my own data platform where I have open standards and I have open interfaces, then from there I can connect an AI tool. And so then I can always connect another tool.
Okay. So we're it's 11 o'clock. It's we've gone through our available time this morning. Thank you for joining. Rob made the canvas available for you to download. So please download it if you want to use it. Again, give us some feedback once you've used it. I'd be really interested to learn from you guys as well. Our next webinar is going to be on the 17th of April, which will be on growth strategy. And Mark will be here in this seat. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining me. It was a pleasure having you, and thank you for educating me and these people on the use of adoption of AI. And thank you in the audience for attending. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interactive responses. And we look forward to seeing you again in another webinar or somewhere else. Please reach out to us on LinkedIn or any other platform if you have any other questions. Any wise words?
Happy hacking.
Happy hacking. Thank you very much.